I just want to thank you for coming there, because that was really a couple of amazing days. And I wanted to ask you, it was a very different experience for Night Thoughts to be played in isolation behind the screen without the hits and treats afterwards. Now obviously we'd had an amazing normal set the night before, but there was this sort of sense of almost, I suppose, sort of coitus interruptus about, you know, end music, and we didn't even get the waves noises, you know, to go off with. And I just wondered how it felt for you guys. I mean, were you just exhausted and relieved to go back to the hotel and get a cup of tea? Or did it feel slightly odd for you guys to play it in isolation like that?
For anyone who doesn't know, we did the film at Primavera Festival in Barcelona last week. But as you said, we didn't play a set afterwards, which is what we've been doing. Yeah, it was exactly the same for us. I think we all found it really, really strange, because it's such a controlled thing to play it behind the screen and to not get anything back from an audience. And it was quite a kind of quiet cinema, and the dressing room was kind of up a lift away, so we couldn't even hear the audience. And it was very, very strange to come off stage. I think most musicians are quite shouty people and need at least some kind of adoration. So it was quite strange to do it, and then, you know, and to come off and, yeah, to disappear back. That's the wonder of Twitter. That's true. You can go back to the dressing room and get your adoration or otherwise.
But can I just also say, though, bizarrely for me, it was the best Night Thoughts set you've ever played.
Oh, thank you. Yeah,
I just thought it was stunning, and it actually made me cry. The combination of music and film care just brought reduced tears.
I think we're learning how to do it. just at the end, just think we've got 2 more to do, and then that's it. So just, yeah.
Oh, we'll just have to have a Night Thoughts reunion.
Yeah. Does anyone else have a question?
Really, really enjoyed the experience of that. Thanks for coming. You know, that's quite a nice event to have, to be, you know, experiencing an album with the beautiful visuals and with the music, the intensity, like that. It's good and loud, you know. I think that's how music should be appreciated for me, and with the art, the intensity and the sense of claustrophobia and freedom that came through was very nice for me. I like the imagery of water, like going into a charity shop and feeling cluttered, but walking out with that Space Waltz album from 1974 with it on, going, yeah. So basically, have you had any good charity shop finds recently?
I've got a telescope.
Yeah, that's good.
A telescope? A second-hand telescope? Yeah. Nice.
Beat that.
I don't know. It's quite good for children's books, actually, charity shops.
I don't know if you dress in charity shops anymore, do you seem quite...
I have to confess, I find myself giving more stuff to charity shops than I actually buy. This is all extra. Where are they? Yeah, so, yeah. I mean, the whole charity shop thing wasn't. I've said it before, but it kind of like it kind of with the early Suede thing, the early Suede look, whatever you want to call it. It's kind of like, well, it's just because we didn't have any money. It's that, and it sort of became this thing in kind of like, you know, things like Face and Ideals and Suede charity shop chic and all this sort of thing. Just couldn't afford that at the time. I mean, that was it. You know, it wasn't kind of, there was no look.
Does anyone else have a lady?
We should really make these 2 race
Hi, it's a question for Brett really. We've obviously heard a little bit about your inspiration for the album. I'm just wondering whether the experience of writing the album has made you come out of the experience feeling any differently about some of those things. Sorry, I'm a psychologist.
Has it made me feel any differently
Yeah.
about those things?
Sometimes I think that people say that writing things makes them sort of work through things or reflect on things differently in the end. I just wondered if that was your experience.
I don't think it's made me feel any differently about them, really. It's made me more sensitive to them, I think. It's made me... it's just sort of like magnified a little bit for me and made me sort of hyper-aware of kind of my family and the family that I was born in and these sorts of things. I suppose it's quite useful in a way because I think there's lots of cliches and traps that you fall into as a member of a family. These kind of like behavioural, kind of like sort of like patterns that just come out that are kind of like these cliches of, you know, how people behave at certain ages and stuff. And it's made me kind of aware of that. So that's a good thing, I think. You know, I look at my relationship with my father and look sort of where it went wrong and why it went wrong. A lot of it's because for writing this record, you know, lots of the songs like I Don't Know How to Reach You and things like that, I was thinking about that. And I suppose I can use that as a tool to hopefully not repeat those same mistakes.
And is there a theme for the next album yet, or is that still working?
Is there a theme for the next album?
Yeah.
I was toying with the idea of writing an album through the eyes of my 4-year-old son. That's the whole album from his point of view. Seriously.
Well, what are his interests?
Dinosaurs. There's a man in the blue top. Oh, sorry.
Hi, thank you very much for coming on today. I went to a funeral today, and as we entered the crematorium, it was a big display, and there were shots from my friend's last Bernadette, and yeah, the film kind of resonated with that, but also it made me kind of think about, you know, what we capture as memories and what we cling on to and what we let go of. And I was listening to this thing on Radio 4 the other day called All in the Mind, which is all about mental health. And there was some research saying that 40% of middle-aged men have at some point thought of killing themselves. And that surprised me, and stunned me really. And I don't know what the theme was, because I've only just recently got a CD. But unfortunately, I've been to a couple of funerals recently, and the one previous to that was a guy who died of heroin overdose, and when he was being interned, I think that the term is, when they go behind the curtain, he was a massive fan of Suede, and they played the two of us. So on the behalf of Dan, I'd just like to thank you, because I know you added a lot to his short life. Thanks.
Well, that's a very touching story. It's always a real, genuine, kind of humbling thing when you realise that someone you sat down in your bedroom writing all those years ago kind of means something to people, so it's lovely still, I think.
The man up there.
I just wanted to say, really, is there any chance you can let Roger loose on Dogman Star?
The idea of letting Roger loose on a slightly more depressing record. I would worry about his state of mind.
It's not a no, though.
Does anybody else have a question?
Next door to him. That'll be easy. Pass it along.
Hello, it's just a rather quick question to Roger. I felt very nostalgic watching, very nostalgic watching the film. Was any of it filmed in the valleys?
Yeah.
Out there?
No, not out there.
Sorry.
We've got some of the crew here.
It was the terraces, the terrace houses. I just wanted to know so I could brag.
We were near Merthyr. We were in Merthyr for some of it, but where was the other place that we went to? Much more into the thanks Welsh crew.
Sorry, you're on the spot now.
Is it Maerdine?
You're taking our glory now. That's it, thanks.
Yeah.
Come to up there again.
Okay.
But beautiful immersive. It's a really immersive piece of film, and just another very quick question. It'd be wonderful maybe to write some lyrics based on a film, so kind of flipping it. That could be something that could be interesting.
Hi, sorry. It's quite still an underdeveloped world, the idea of kind of visual albums. And I wondered, as a band, compositionally, if you approached writing music differently with that consideration, and as filmmakers, if you approached it differently, considering the kind of environment, particularly of the cinema, when you're performing in a cinema, when you're screening in a cinema, you've kind of got a captive audience. It does it in a very, very different way to an album, and I wondered kind of if it influenced your kind of consideration of dynamics in sound and in music, or sound design in the filmmaking, where that kind of collaboration combined through the process.
It was quite interesting, because I think that a lot of it we were just finding out about when we were making it. You know, the whole idea of playing behind the screen was a complete unknown for us. We didn't know how it would look, how it would come across, whether the audience would be confused about. Just so anyone that doesn't know, we've taken the film on tour and we played behind the film. We lit through the screen, so it's got kind of another dimension of the band. So we just didn't know how that was going to work at all. There didn't seem to be any precedent for it. So we kind of just did it and sort of like had a leap of faith, and it happened to work really well, we thought. So that's a lot of the thing with the creative process, isn't it? You're just sort of finding these things out and kind of like hoping that they go right, but there's always that sort of like potential for disaster. What makes it interesting.
It wasn't a disaster.
We should put that on the poster.
Yeah. Cheers, guys. All right, thank you. Well, thanks for coming to Cardiff, firstly, and well, most of the questions I had have been covered, but I go back to what you were saying earlier about interpreting the music. Really, it's my own opinion, like you say, and I'm glad you didn't say what it meant to you, yeah, and yourselves. Musically, I think it's the most cinematic I've ever heard of Suede, and obviously I've been with you from the start. It sort of set me back to the Derek Jam and Clapham Grand show, which I was at. I just had that same sort of feeling, but back to you. Visually, it's very hard-hitting. I was not expecting that at all. But I'm blown away, I must say. I just, you know, like I say, it's the most cinematic Suede thing. But it was a sort of a, I don't know, did you see the film before it was finished, or did you like have a day where you sat down and watched the film?
Yeah, we kind of, we obviously, you know, we didn't just sort of give it to Roger and then walk away from it.
Yeah.
We allowed him sort of, a lot of creative sort of influence over it, but they were kind of like the things, and I can't remember what things we did. A couple of bits, weren't there, where we were kind of like, it wasn't quite right. I can't remember what song it was in there. There was, I had issues with When You're Young.
Yeah.
That wasn't right for me.
Yeah,
there's stuff about that.
But so did I as well.
Yeah, and we had problems with Outsiders as well.
Yeah.
So, but that was just sort of fine tuning, you know. You kind of.
To be honest, it was working with them. It wasn't. It never felt like.
It was a collaborative.
Yeah, and they were good people to go to ask opinions of and things like that. So it was good.
And it was back to the gentleman up there who sadly attended the funeral today. Obviously, we've all had our problems, but watching that, it does. Yeah. It is a good feel in a dark place, if that makes any sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you know, there's a lot of, I think a lot of people get criticised for.
Yeah.
Because people think that when you illustrate things to do with mental health or whatever, that you're doing it for shock value.
Well, see, I've experienced it, so it's beautiful.
Absolutely not the case from my point of view.
But, and I will say, Matt, I think some of the best bass playing I've ever heard you play. So, overall, thank you.
Is there any more?
More questions like that.
That wasn't a question.
Right. With this tour, I think the Suede bands have been spoiled with the double set. Is this something you'd do again, do you think?
No.
Which space will be fucking
Now we're used to it.
It's something kind of specific to it. It was partly for us and partly for the audience. So, like I said before, I think you know, as musicians, I like that kind of reaction with an audience. I find it unsatisfying. I love playing with the film, but there's something unsatisfying about not getting just that kind of physical chemical thing of 5,005 people, you know, all doing the same thing.
It was odd to see the film start with.
Yeah.
Behind the screen.
And we had no idea, like Brett said before, we had no idea if it was going to work. It's really weird doing these things because we sound, hopefully, like we know what we're doing. But it really was kind of just weird little decisions that we made. You know, and then suddenly you find yourself a year later, you know, behind a huge screen showing people.
You know, exactly the last minute we decided to actually go behind the screen, wasn't it? I remember going to the Roundhouse.
The week before, yeah.
That site was there, really.
We were originally going to play
in front of the screen. We stood at the Roundhouse and I looked at the stage. Just imagine standing there and playing a whole album's worth of new songs. And part of it was sort of cowardice, part of it was sort of like, I don't want to face the audience with this kind of weird sort of thing, like, you know, I don't want to drift into persona and sort of like kind of get the audience into the gig, you know, like kind of like everyone play hands or whatever, because there's not that sort of record. And so we thought, well, no, why don't we try all behind the screen and see what happens. And that was like a last minute thing.
Really last minute, yeah.
And, you know, that's one of those decisions that we got right, and I think it makes for an interesting kind of thing.
I love that about it. Honestly, I reminded me to, you know,